Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie Jennings from EJSLLC.com. This video is another in my RHCE practice session series where I'm preparing for the Red Hat Certified Engineer exam. Before I dive in, I do want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video, as well as invite anyone who hasn't subscribed yet to click that subscribe button and ring the bell when you do so you can be notified of when new content comes available. Also, if you enjoyed this video or find it useful, make sure you do click like and feel free to share it with others who might find it useful as well. Before I go further in explaining what I'm going to go over in this particular video, I do want to remind everyone that this is not intended to be authoritative information, nor is it intended to be a tutorial. Rather, it's an opportunity for me to do a little self-assessment on whatever objective is at hand and see if I feel confident talking about it or doing some examples, trying to emulate what it would be like working with exam tasks related to that objective. And at the end of the video, ideally, I'll feel confident about everything that's going on, or if I don't, then I'll make a note of what I had problems with, and between now and the exam, which is just under 2 weeks away, I'll do a little bit of extra study to fill in some knowledge gaps. That being said, I do try to have the information as accurate as possible. So what I'm going to talk about in this video is actually not in the objective list, and it's going to be about RHEL system roles. And the reason why I'm talking about it is even though there's absolutely nothing in this list that I can see, actually you can't see this on the video, I have a different window that has the objectives. I just literally refreshed the page and I'm looking at the study points for the exam and looking down the objective list, and there is nothing in there that talks about RHEL system roles, unless I'm just completely blind. Let me do a search for system. There's 10 matches for system, but none of which talk about RHEL system roles. Now, the reason why I'm interested in talking about this for the video is the tutorials that I used. Some of them are from Linux Academy before they were bought by a cloud guru, and I've used the Sander Van Vogt book, and then also, the internet at large, just looking at materials and such. Many of them have tutorials about using RHEL system roles, and I think they're important to understand and important to know that they exist, and you need to know how to use them just as a general practitioner of using Ansible in a RHEL environment. But since it seems like these tutorial sources always included that when they were talking about roles, in addition to make your own roles and then using stuff from Ansible Galaxy, I figured it would be worthwhile to understand both from the fact that I have a feeling it is probably going to be on the exam in some way, even though it shouldn't be, or at least I would think it shouldn't be, because it's not explicitly said in the objectives, nor would any of the objectives indicate that this can be interpreted as using RHEL system roles. I think it's important to know about them. So I'm going to do my own little practice session for it. They really aren't that difficult to understand, but it makes sense to spend a little bit of time with them. So I'm here in my Ansible control node. I'm actually going to exit back out of this and back to my admin user, because to install the system roles, you're actually going to be using yum or DNF to do that, rather than using Ansible Galaxy, or at least I don't think they're available in Ansible Galaxy. We might do a search just to see, and if so, then that would be under the Ansible Galaxy stuff. But to do this, we're going to do sudo DNF install RHEL system roles, and I'm going to go ahead and do -y for that, because I want it to grab everything. All right, after a couple of minutes or so, it installs the stuff, and by default, these roles are going to be living in our user local directory. Go into lib. Is it lib? No. Where are these roles at? Grumble. It might be bin. Should have this memorized. I am clearly drawing a blank on that. So let me go, let me log back into my control node. Let me sudo su-l into Ansible, and we will do Ansible Galaxy list. There we go. User share Ansible roles. Is that where they live? I thought they were in a different spot. User share Ansible roles. Yeah, they're there. For some reason, I thought they were in a different spot. I know there's a spot. If you're to go into user share doc, there's a separate RHEL system roles for user share doc, if I can spell. And for each of these roles, it has a lot of good information. So what these roles are specific to configuring different aspects of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. And I think the reason why these exist, and don't 100% quote me on this, I'm pretty sure I read it in an article, a Red Hat article somewhere, was the fact that over time there have been some pretty big changes with Red Hat Enterprise Linux. I didn't really get involved with RHEL until RHEL 7 was out, and when I did my RHCSA exam, that was for RHEL 8, because that RHEL 8 came out about, I think it's either 3 months or a year and 3 months before I took the RHCSA exam. Or no, it may have been just a couple months. Either way, I would say I've grown up in the RHEL 8 land. But I do know between RHEL 6 and RHEL 7, one of the big differences was moving to systemd. And for RHEL 7 to RHEL 8, not sure what the big difference are, and I'm sure there's Red Hat administrators that may watch this and they're banging their fists on the desk saying, oh, there's all sorts of stuff that's different. But when you begin with RHEL 8, it's kind of tough to know. I know that app streams was something that was different. But either way, the point of these roles is to allow for, quote, the easy configuration of stuff, kind of regardless of the version of Red Hat Enterprise Linux you're running. And one useful thing with this, and one useful thing for this, is just like using any other roles. You can use all or some or none of these to be able to configure various aspects of your system. And the way that you would leverage these usually is you're going to actually go into where we have user share doc, and I'm actually going to go into SE Linux here. And you'll have some README files that will talk about the variables and such. Let's do less. We'll look at the one that's in Markdown. And it tells you about what this particular role is going to do. But the big thing is that it gives you an example playbook. So let's VI this example playbook here. Here, the vars are what you're going to be changing for it. So let's say that, and actually, let's just do an example of it. I think that'll be the best way of doing this. So we're going to go back into our home directory and let's see, we'll call it RHEL role test.yml. All right, and what we're going to do with this is, actually let's copy this first. So we're going to copy user share doc, RHEL system roles. We're going to do the SE Linux role, and its example playbook, we're going to copy that to our current directory. So I'm actually going to make a new copy of that and just call this .back, or BLK, I guess. Just as a way, if I totally screw this up, I have another copy to work with that's right here in the directory. So we're going to go into this example playbook, and this is already set up to use the role for configuring SE Linux, or rather the RHEL system role for configuring SE Linux. So really, this is not going to install Apache and such for us, but rather it will take care of all of the SE Linux stuff that we may need it to do. So what we can do with this is either make changes to this playbook and include like the Apache bits that we want, or we could simply call this playbook into another playbook and let it handle the SE Linux pieces of stuff. So I think what I want to do for this example, or maybe we can do both. Yeah, that might make sense. So the only thing that I want to set, actually I don't want to set any booleans, so we can get rid of this part. The F context, let's see, what I want to do, we're going to use test web at the root directory as our, actually let me undo that real quick. Yeah, so we're going to use test web as our web directory. And what's the SE type for that? I think it's httpd://sys_rw_content, but I'm not 100% sure. So do I have SE manage on this? Of course I don't. So let me install that real quick. Or actually, I'm just going to do the cheat way here. So I'm pretty sure I have SE manage on this machine. F context -l grep var www HTML. And of course, I have to do that as sudo. I will say if your environment includes a workstation to work on and then you're SSHing into your servers, by all means make use of it. All right, so this is what I want. HTTPD sys read write content underscore T for type. So we'll go back into our example playbook. Oh, did I not save that? I guess I didn't. So we'll get rid of our booleans, the file context. Go ahead and paste that in here. And again, we're going to use test web for that. The directories to restore are going to be test web, because remember you have to do restorecon, and what this role is going to do is take care of that for you. We're not configuring any ports. We're not doing any type of login stuff. Oops, deleted too many things. Oh, so this is going to go ahead and make our test directory. That's kind of nice. So we can go ahead and do this, test web. And I don't think there's anything else that we need to do. It does take care of something as far as if you need to reboot. Not 100% sure exactly how that works. All right, cool. So this role is going to go ahead and make our directory, which is kind of nice. So I think what I'll do the method of, we will call this playbook rather than, well, I guess we don't necessarily have to do that. We'll just make a task for, prepare prerequisites which are used in the playbook. Yep. We can just add our tasks if we want. Now, I may have said just a couple minutes ago in the video I might do both ways, but we'll see. As you can tell, these aren't really scripted. This is literally just me. I want to do a practice session on this and create things to do. Now, I would suggest with your own studies that you would have some sessions that's like very specific. I want to work on this particular thing, but for these sessions that I'm recording, it's really kind of a free-for-all what I want to talk about with the objective, and really it's a tell me everything you know kind of thing. All right, so with this we'll do install HTTPD, go ahead and do yum and name HTTPD, state present. I guess we can do a config file. What do I want to do that with? I can never remember the exact directive off the top of my head. I know it's document root. I guess I could do, no, that'll replace the entire thing though. I don't want to replace the entire line. I would just want to replace some text with it. All right, so when in doubt, I'm going to, I just lost all my changes because I did QI, grumble. Yep. Okay, well, we're going to do something a little different then. So I've already spent about 15 minutes or so on this video. Let's go ahead and reset these. Tip for the test: if you're working in VI, don't quit with the exclamation point unless you're 100% sure. So test web, get rid of this, test web. And what we're going to do here is, so I think we can keep all that the same, and we actually are going to do this against all of the hosts. All right, so now I've actually saved the information. What I am going to do though, just curious, yeah, that's not going to be there. Actually, I'm going to SSH into lab RHEL AN04. I'm actually going to install HTTPD real quick, specifically to get that line from the config file that I can't remember off the top of my head. So etc httpd conf httpd.conf. Of course, that's not a directory. All right, so what I want to change is the document root. However, I feel like I need to make a change there too, but we'll see what happens. So we'll copy this. And here we're going to make our create httpd.yml. I suppose, all right, so we're going to do deploy web servers, host all become yes, and tasks. Install HTTPD. So we'll do yum name HTTPD state present. We'll do configure HTTPD. We'll try line and file. We'll do path. That's going to be etc httpd conf httpd.conf. I would like to make a backup of this. regexp, we are specifically wanting this line, and we want to replace it with, I wonder how that's going to handle quotation marks. Well, we'll see. Document root test web, state present, notify, restart Apache. We're going to configure the services, or just configure the service. Name HTTPD, state started, and enabled yes. We need to configure our firewall. Name 80TCP. Oh wait, not name. Port. Oh, we'll do service this time instead. HTTP. Immediate. Yes. Permanent. Yes. State is enabled. And we're going to make a handler for restarting, what did I say? Restart Apache. Service name HTTPD. State restarted. Now there is one thing I do want to look up real quick. -L grep -I. Do I want to import or do I want to include? Import means it's going to run at the beginning. I'm importing a playbook. Do -I include. I can include a role or import a playbook. Alright, so yeah, I'll import the playbook. So that means that the SE Linux stuff is going to run and be done, which that's fine because part of that is going to create the directory, and so therefore things should work for us. But no, I'm going to need to, So I wonder if I can do the import playbook. Well, all that's going to do is put that, it's going to replace the playbook that's there. So let's do this. We're going to add another thing here. Do it after the firewall config. Create index. Well, we can't do that because... Alright, so we're going to go ahead and make our directory. And that's fine. So file, path, test web, state directory, name, make index file. Let's use the copy module for that. Content, hello, and path, destination is going to be test web index.html. That's all we need for that. We get our handlers. Okay, so let's say this is going to be import the RHEL role. So import playbook name. Probably does not have to be a list. Ah, I see. All right, so so let's see where this is going to go as far as what we have with the order of operations that's going to happen here. Otherwise, you have to do like pre-tasks and post-tasks. So import playbook. Let's call it selinux.yml. Make life a little bit easier for us. I'll bet import playbook's going to complain, but we'll see. We'll do a syntax check of this. Yeah, this is going to have to be a part of its own play, I think. Which actually, that works out well. So let's do, we'll make a separate play for this. All right, let's run the syntax check now. All right, provided host is empty. Oh, I don't have an inventory file. So we'll specify an inventory file here. Echo, oh, that's because I reverted this to snapshot, that's why. Lab RHEL AN 0, 1 through 4 NV. So Ansible playbook -I NV and then httpd.yaml. Let's see what happens. I didn't do much proofreading at all of this, so there may be some errors, but we'll see. Okay, and I'll bet that is, yeah, I know why that happened. Okay, so let's go back into HTTPD. Yep, that happened because our directories and such aren't there yet. Because it basically read the configuration file and said, hey, let's do something different. And yeah, all right, so just to make this work, not necessarily make it pretty, how many lines is this? 4, 8, so 8 DD. Okay, so let's try this again. Looking back at this, I probably would have written this a bit differently. But at this point of the video, I just want to see if it'll work. What? Oh, yeah. Now I see what the problem is there. I'm so used to using ports, I forget this. The service is just HTTP, not HTTPD. All right, let's run it again. Thought I was going to forget the -I, didn't you? Luckily, I remembered at the last moment. All right, so I went into the second play. Now it's doing the SE Linux stuff. It did not run the handler just because the config file had already been done. I probably should have put something like the host name in that instead of just hello, but that's fine. Of course, there's nothing for it to do for booleans or file context. There's nothing for it to do for booleans. The file context will take a bit, and you'll probably remember if you're just using SE manage setf context. I think that's the name of the command off the top of my head. I'm drawing a blank because I'm tired. That tends to take a bit. All right, so this looks like that functioned correctly. So let's see what happens. So curl http lab rel an01 index.html. All right, so I'm forbidden. That makes me think it's going to be an SE Linux issue for that. Or it might not be an SE Linux issue. It might just be an Apache permissions thing. Because remember I said about the document root, and there have been times where I've needed to change whatever the couple of directives underneath document root. So what I'm going to do, well, I guess I could do the Ansible way. What I'm most curious about is the SE Linux context, to be honest with you. So we'll do als-lz test web. Oh, I need to give an inventory file -i-inv. So it did not. Okay, so the index.html is not correct. Test web is. That's curious because I was expecting it to do all of that. So let's take a look at the role. So we'll go back into our example playbook. Let's see. So we have the directory, include role, right? Oh, one thing I did want to mention, if you do have a custom configuration file that is specifying your roles directory, you're going to need to include the path to where these RHEL system roles are configured, by the way. Or actually, better yet, let's look at this. All right, so all of that looks okay. So let's actually go to the role itself. So cd user share Ansible roles, and we're going to go into the RHEL system roles.se Linux. There's all sorts of stuff in here. Let's go to tasks. All right, let's vi main.yml. So yeah, it looks like it installs packages. All right, so that's where we're setting the file context and such. It's our SE manage f context. Yeah, restoreCon rv. That's what I was looking for there. Well, let's do this. Cat SE Linux. Just want to make 100% sure. Let's just run this one more, just this playbook one more time. I'm curious to see what happens. Unless I had test web is what we're using. No, that's not going to give me what I want. Yeah, so test web is definitely what we're using. So we'll Ansible playbook, SE Linux, and inventory. Let's see what happens. So it reloaded SE Linux policy. So all of that looks good. Target test web, yeah, that looks right. All right, so let's do what we got. So it did not change that. I'm quite surprised with that. So I think that's something that between now and the exam, in particular the SE Linux one, I want to research a little bit more about this particular RHEL system role, because I totally expected that with the restoreCon rv, especially the restoreCon r, that it should work recursively for that, but maybe there's something in the role that doesn't do that. The point being, what should occur, of course, famous last words in IT, right, is you can use these RHEL system roles for configuring things like this. Like I think there's one that configures network time protocol, and there's a couple others. Actually, we can take a look at the list one more time. Galaxy list. Yeah, there's some for configuring postfix. You can configure network, all sorts of things. But the SE Linux looked like it was a fail. So as far as this actual not really an objective of RHEL system roles. I'm going to consider it a pass just in the fact I know how to install them. I know conceptually what I need to do. The SC Linux didn't work out too well, but I'm genuinely curious about that because I could not see, just in doing this quickly here, I could not see where I was making my mistake for it to not recursively set the SC Linux file context for index.html. So if you enjoyed this video or found it useful, make sure that you click like and feel free to share it with others. Remember, the goal for these is not necessarily to be a tutorial or to be authoritative in my information, but rather it's a, here's a sample of what I might do to try to help prepare for the exam, and perhaps the example that I show will give you an idea of what to do for your own preparation. That's my goal with publishing these. I want to remind you, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you do click that subscribe button. Also, if you have subscribed, thank you for coming back to watch another video. Thank you all for taking the time to watch, and I'll see you the next time.